How y'all all? Welcome, Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us as we rock and roll. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline if you'd like to be part of the program, your opportunity to be a voice. Well, it happened yesterday, as predicted on this program. As you know, the partnership with the private public sector hospitals. And I made a prediction that by the 1st of May, there would be pink slips going out. And yesterday it happened in Lafayette. Louisiana Hospital sends layoff notices amid deep cut threats. I told you this was coming. And, of course, saw it on the news last night, and everybody's going to lose their job, and doom and gloom, and it never stops. Never stops, never stops, never stops. Nobody's going to lose their job over there. And it's going to be fun. I see what the Republicans are doing right now, and really it's the best way to do it. But nobody's going to lose their jobs. Well, you're not on the list, Griffon. I lose my job any day, any second, any time. Ask the people in the oil and gas industry how quick you can lose their jobs. In the private sector, ask them. It happens. This is not going to happen. It's very frustrating to watch how Bell Edwards and Jay Darden and the Huey Long's ghost still appearing in Louisiana of doom and gloom if we don't pay more taxes. It's just frustrating to watch this. 770 people will lose their job on June 30th if we don't come up with some more tax dollars. That's amazing. 50 states, and we're the only ones doing this public-private partnership. 50 out of 50 states. The Edwards administration, of course, they piled on, said proposed cuts likely also would close hospitals. You ready, Brandon? Shreveport, Monroe, Bogalusa, and New Orleans. And this is the kind of stuff that we're going to listen to over and over again, folks, if we don't give them half our damn paycheck. We got teachers talking about going on strike with the greatest retirement system in the world. I wonder if teachers would trade their retirement system, guaranteed by the Constitution, for a pay increase and then go on a 401k. No, they're not going to do that. All these government entities, all this panic, and all we got to do is take money from the people that produce the money and give everybody else more money, and boy, we're going to prosper. And we're going to be so good now. It's going to be an awesome thing. If I'm willing to give up 50% of my income and you give up 50% of your income, government would be awesome, man. And all these people could have great retirement system. And we just won't go to hell in a handbasket. Doom and gloom. Hospital's not going to close. Not one hospital's going to close. Not one. I'm making a prediction right now. Not one hospital will close. The reason I said the Republicans did a smart thing, if they would have went to special session and did what Bell Edwards wanted to do. He wanted $1 billion in new taxes. It started out 1.5, $1 billion in new taxes. Knowing good and well, with $300 million they got from an income tax increase on people that itemized. That was called the Trump tax cut. Started out $1 billion. If we had gave them $1 billion, they now tell us we're $495 million in a hole. If we'd have gave them $1 billion, they would be $500 million more than they would have to have right now. But the Republicans did the right thing, no matter what the dang Jim Beam says, or crazy Gannett news writer, Greg Hilburn, who don't have even clue, don't even know what state he's in. The Advocate, the Times-Picayune. All these people tell you this, Edwards, honor code guy. He wanted $1 billion. It's a $495 million shortfall, which would fund all the hospitals and everything. And the Republicans said no, and they take the heat because you keep reading a Lanny Keller story or a Jim Beam piece. And these people they don't care about the truth. They don't care if you know the truth. I've been here trying to explain this. The most nonpartisan, non-political show on the air today, the Moon Griffon Show, explaining this bunch of bull that's run around. And then I drove in today. I looked over the hospital. No cut on the hospital. The great people work at a hospital. I'm out there at the front door again, begging people to write the legislature. Now, we do a private-public partnership, the only one in the country, and we're still on the hook for the money? What kind of deal is this? If we're going to be hooked on the money, we should have kept it like it was. Oh, no, not in the great state of Louisiana. We need a constitutional convention to fix everything, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I'm on the minority on that. I'm telling you, I'm going to be the one beat up on that. I'll be right on it, too. I don't say that often. But I will be right about the Constitutional Convention, which is a whole other piece. I see this. I see what the Republicans did. And Lance Harris, who gets beat up, and Cameron Henry, who gets beat up, and Blake Miguez, and who gets beat up, and Bob Henskin, who gets beat up, and all the real conservative, not the Julie Stokes, Nancy Pelosi types, Barry Ivey, I ain't raising taxes, Rob Shadrach, weak-minded liberal leftists. They're praised in the press because they're Republicans who cross the line. And they're not worried about John Bell being reelected like these other Republicans. And all that stuff is written about these guys, a bunch of lies. The Republicans had a plan. Let's see how much we need before we make a decision on how much to give you. And according to the last report, we need $495 million. We don't need the billion that the honor code, Bell Edwards, and the crying, whining Jay Darden gets on programs and whines and cries like a wuss. I said wuss, that's with a W. They whine and cry, and they wanted $1 billion. Why? Because it's for re-election. You keep reading Jim Beam and all these people. Well, the Republicans just want Edwards to be re-elected. Flip it. What they're not telling you is they want him to be reelected. They want him to have another $500 million so he can go around and say, look how good I'm doing. They said $2 billion in new taxes. It wasn't enough. Folks, I'm telling you, these people are running roughshod. This press is no different than what we see in Washington, D.C. They take their sides. Boom, that's it. The Republicans were right. They were right. We didn't need to pass $1 billion in new taxes in a special session. They need $495 million. They would have $500 million more. And this is what they've been doing. But you can't get that picking up a newspaper in the Advocate and the Times-Picayune and read that crap. Because they only going to put their side. That's what the man, Governor Honor and co-governor Darden wanted $1 billion, they told people. It's $495 million. I heard Blake Miguez this morning with Robin Burney on our KPL Morning Show. And he made a great point. He said, we would have gave him $500 million more than he needed. Lance Harris at the press club. It's $500 million more than he needed. I'm glad Harris said this at the press club. Well, quote, income tax is out and will not vote for anything when it comes to. So that's off the table. Every Republican ought to not want one more penny to come out of people's income. 45% of us just got nailed. Trump gives us a tax break and the state took it back. That was off our income taxes, folks. So they were right by not giving Bell Edwards $1 billion. It's not $1 billion whole, folks. It's $495 million. These hospitals are going to get, for the most part, their money. The Republicans based the budget on how much money they knew we have. I think that's smart. The newspapers, the net newspaper, the Advocate, the Times-Picayune, they want budgets based off what they want. No, they don't care if they got the money or not. That's stupidity. We've been doing that with the Senate budget for 10 years. They want the Senate version. More money. They keep trying to convince you we're not overtaxed. Why do they keep trying to convince you that? They keep trying to convince you if we could just give them the money, you're going to prosper. They're trying to convince you if you have less take-home pay for your family and give it to them, you're going to prosper. I still don't see how that works. All right, take half my paycheck. I'll sit at home every day. How does that work, folks? Medicaid is out of control with the spending on Medicaid. They don't want to talk about that. I mean, that's why you don't have enough money for the hospitals. But they're not going to talk about that. It's phenomenal to watch this work his way through. What do you want us to do, folks? How much more money? I mean, the oil and gas industry is hurting even though the prices continue to go up. They're suing the hell out of the companies. Bell Edwards' lawyers and people that are giving him money are suing all companies. That's a fact. Go check it out. So what are we supposed to do? The doom and gloom, the poor hospitals, all of them got pink slips. They're not going to have jobs anymore. Our hospitals are going to close. And what does the people in the TV stations do? They go interview the person. Well, you know what? I've been coming here for 20 years or 10 years. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I had this. They helped me with this. Doom and gloom brought in with the emotional stories. How long are we going to watch this go on in Louisiana? Well, apparently some people are not because they're getting the hell out because we got our migration problem. This governor and co-governorship has failed us. It has been a total failure. And all they want to talk about is raising taxes. If you'd have gave Bell Edwards the $1 billion, he would have $500 million more per year extra to spend. And our economy can't keep up with what they're doing. We can't. My God. There's not anybody going to lose their jobs at the hospitals. Nobody. But look at the news story today. They're all going to close. And Edwards and them say close in Monroe and Shreveport and New Orleans and Bogalusa. Keep telling people that. What a joke. Let's just take a little history lesson. How many times have they told us they want to shut hospitals now in the last 40, 50 years? How many times have they said we're going to kick old people out, take them off of dialysis machines? How many times they said we're going to kick children out, we're going to starve them and not feed them? We've been hearing this for 40 or 50 years here in the state of Louisiana. Here's my question. How many times has it really happened? The answer? 0. So why do we get so worked up every time there becomes a crisis in our budget? And this is what's driving this constitutional convention. If we don't change the Constitution, we can't fix it because they're saying we dedicated all this money. But how many times have this happened to our citizens? The answer is 0. Now, look, I have the most nonpartisan, non-political show on air today. And I'm telling you, look at history. History says we're not going to close a hospital. History says we're not going to close a hospital. We're not going to kick one old person out off the dialysis machines. History says those people over there, 707 employees that got pink slips in 60 days, which I told y'all this was coming as part of the game of, hey, we got to scare people to pay more taxes. And here's another question. How much is ever going to be enough of the percentage of your income that goes to government? You notice I'm not an anti-government guy. I'm not a tax protesting guy. If it says we pay 50%, we pay 50%. I'm not getting into all that stuff. Some people want to get into that, get into it. I'm not. I'm not anti-government. I think we need government. I think we need small, smart government and get out the way. We don't have small, smart government. We got big, ignorant government because of the lawmakers that we send there. That for some reason, when they get elected, they think their number one job is to make sure state government has all the money it wants. And if we would have listened to Bell Edwards and Jay Darden in the special session, they would have $1 billion more. $1 billion more, but the Revenue Estimating Conference and everything we're looking at says we're $495 million short of what, quote, they need. Not $1 billion. But if we would have listened, and if we'd have had a special session and they would have passed all the taxes that Bell Edwards wanted, and Governor Darden, we would have $1 billion, and then we would have a $500 million surplus. And you know what Jim Beam would be writing, and Greg Hilburn and these people? Bell Edwards, the greatest governor ever. He has a $500 million surplus. Yeah, he took it from us. He just took it from us through the lawmakers. Hey, if they want to make him look good, and this is what they're fighting about. Every time Jim Beam writes, the Republicans want to beat him in the next election. First of all, Jim, that's common sense. Okay, Republicans want to beat Democrats, and Democrats want to beat Republicans. That's why I'm independent. Their ignorance amazes me. So, Jim, that's a natural process. But the natural process of you wanting to be able to go out there and say, he took a watch Brandon next year's election. Remember, we're a year away from elections. He had a $2 billion budget. He deficit he inherited. By the way, he voted for it. That's what they're going to tell you next year. They wanted to be able to say he went from $2 billion in the hole to $500 million on the plus side. And they're going to say that whether it's true or not. First of all, we never had a $2 billion deficit. It was always closer to $1 billion or $800 million. The $2 billion, it was, if you go back and look at the election, the governor's race, nobody talked about a $2 billion deficit. We talked about an $800 million deficit. And as soon as Bell Edwards got in the governor's position, they grew it and grew it and grew it and grew it and said $2 billion. And, of course, the press, pro-Edwards press, wrote $2 billion. It's all set up. Watch. Just like I told you they were going to send these pink slips out. This is what you do. This is what you do. You need doom and gloom to get more money from the taxpayers. We've been losing jobs in our state, not gaining them. We're losing people, not gaining them. Where are you going to get the money from? The solution is to get the government right sized to what our economy can produce, and whatever it produces, it produces. And then priorities have to be, what do you want priorities? If they're health care, fund health care. If it's roads, fund roads. I'm telling you now, this doom and gloom of everybody losing their jobs, and once again, Edwards and them sent it out. I'm holding it right here. Edwards administration official said, I didn't say Moon said this, proposed cuts likely also would close hospitals in Shreveport, Monroe, Bogalusa, and New Orleans. Closures would have a damaging ripple effect on the LSU medical schools in New Orleans and Shreveport that rely on facilities to train their students. By the way, the new LSU medical facility that they built, they were advised, Bobby Jindal was advised, don't build that big thing. We won't be able to fund it. And guess what? We built it and we can't fund it. When we couldn't fund higher ed, we built another university. So we can't fund it. It's like not being able to pay your car notes. You got 4 car notes and you go get a 5th one. That's what we do here. Let's jump gears. David Callecod, president of Lafayette General. We've got him on the air with us. Of course, we saw the big closing in one of the hospitals, and now they're talking about closing all these hospitals because of deep cuts, which I said never happened. David, thanks for calling, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, Moon.
Yes, sir.
I certainly have had better days than the last couple. I was listening in today, and I wanted to talk to you about sort of the reasoning that we gave the notice that we did, and quite frankly, it's because at this moment we're not receiving any sort of amount of money that would allow us to continue to operate the hospital. And so our notice was one that we did as Lafayette General, had nothing to do with the governor's office, but has everything to do with the current budget situation that we face as a state. And right now, the dollars aren't there for us to continue as the public-private partner. And so we wouldn't do this to our 800 employees to participate in any kind of a game with the governor nor the legislature. It's simply a matter that we're trying to ensure the survival of Lafayette General, which is this community's largest employer.
David, let me stop you just for a second. Everything you said, I understand from your perspective. You're a smart guy. You're a great community guy. But I told you this last time we talked, I look at the big picture and I look at history, and it's not going to happen. I understand why you have to do it. Me and you talked about this last time. I made a prediction that by May 1st, there'll be notices that will go out. This will be summed up. This will be fixed. This will be fixed by the special session. They are now, and I'm agree with the Republicans. I know me and you talked about this. You didn't come here to get in politics. You came here to run a hospital. But this is going to be fixed. Now that we know we're about $500 million short, they know what they got to go grab. The governor wanted $1 billion. Y'all got caught in the political stuff. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, it's not going to close. I know what you have to do because you got to give a 60-day notice and a 60-day notice for July 1st. I understand all that. But it's not going to happen. I just wish it wasn't a political football. I know you did it with a sincere heart. But I'm just telling you it's used because they asked the governor about y'all closing. Getting rid of these 770 employees and shutting down, basically. But he brings up Shreveport, Monroe, Bogalusa, New Orleans, and all this stuff. And that's what I'm saying. Y'all get sucked into the political part of it, and that's the part I don't like. You don't like it either.
I know, and part of it's the structural issues we face as a state, so they can only cut money from higher ed and healthcare as we face these challenges each and every year. And unfortunately, within the healthcare budget, the one that is most discretionary is the money going toward the care of the most needy of our population, which is the folks that are cared for in the public-private hospitals. And so, they're accessing what would be sort of the easiest route to cut funding, and unfortunately we're in those crosshairs each and every year. What I want the community to understand is that if this legislature, if we come out of this and we only have a partial funding of the shortfall, what's going to be left is going to be focused on health care. And unfortunately, I fear that in a scenario where not enough revenue is raised, we're going to be on the chopping blocks. And it's going to be communities like ours that are going to be the ones that are most affected by a funding shortfall. And there's going to be a lot of effort to continue funding the main medical centers in Shreveport and New Orleans at the end of the day. And communities like Lafayette, communities like Baton Rouge, Alexandria, Lake Charles are going to be the ones that feel the brunt of this budget impasse that we're facing.
I'll promise you this: Baton Rouge will never get cut one penny. And look, it's not going to happen. I understand, though, where you're coming from, because you're looking at this going, hold up, a deal's a deal. We talked about this, you and me, and I got a lot of respect for you. But the political game of this thing is getting ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I know you know that because you're the football they're throwing back and forth, and you feel it. But the taxpayers are starting to feel like, you know what, after 40 or 50 years of watching this, I've never seen a hospital really close. I've never seen dialysis taken from people and old people thrown out in the streets, and I've never seen kids not go without in Louisiana, not one time. That's what makes me mad. I'm not going to say you're playing political football, but it's being used that way, David. And that's frustrating. Look, it frustrates me as much as it frustrates you. By the way, it's bogus to say that's the only thing they can cut. There's other discretionary money that's out there. They just choose not to cut it. And that's the frustrating part about it. Let me ask you this question. And I need to know from you, how much, you said you have no funding, and I'm going to agree with you. Right now it looks like no funding. How much money does it take to fund, first of all, the hospital we're talking about here in Lafayette, and then all of them together? Is it X amount of dollars for you, and then what's the big picture, if you know that?
Well, give me 1 second. Let me pop up.
Sure. No, go ahead. And what I'm looking at is both. I want to look at the big picture too, if you have that.
Yeah, so right now in the current budget, and this is assuming the government is assuming that we make our lease payment to the state. We are required funding from the state is $118 million. Now we receive additional monies from other revenue sources there that make the hospital about a $140 million facility each and every year. Okay. So 118 is what we were budgeted for or expected in this fiscal year. The current funding that has been approved after the House amendments is $62 million. So when we look at the current shortfall versus the current budget, we're funded right now at 53% of what it takes to run the hospital. Right now today, if everything stayed the same. Right now. Okay. So that means if Lafayette General were to be stuck running the facility, we would lose about $5 million a month because all of that funding goes to cover the cost. Let me tell you something. What's frustrating is and we can't do that. You know, $62 million. They find out every year on the couches down there. Essentially, the $30 billion budget. Okay, what about? Do you have the rest of the money needed for the state of Louisiana, when I say that, and hospitals like yours that are in Monroe and Shreveport and all, what kind of money are you talking about for the whole state? To fund the whole state, and this is both state general funds and federal dollars. And so and let me give you our state number too, by the way. So right now, state general funds, Lafayette General, in the budget we were budgeted to get $22.9 million. And right now, we're at $3.5 million. Mm-hmm. Okay, state general funds. So the rest of the money all comes from federal dollars. So just so we understand that, the state general funds to fund the public-private partners, it actually requires $197 million of state general funds. I'm looking at the very total here. Sure.
I'm just kind of curious how much the total was.
So state general funds, $197 million state. $99 million comes from us, the partners making lease payments.
All right.
And then the federal government, through the match, provides $821 million.
Okay.
So the public-private partner budget is $1.1 billion, excuse me.
Okay.
And right now, through the budget, the way it looks today, the partners are funded at $684 million.
Okay. So basically, when you look at that, you're looking at about that $400 to $500 million. That $463 million shortfall to fund the public-private partners as we sit here today. Well, the states, according to the budget, with $495 million to get everything funded, they're going to do that in the special session. I'm just telling you,
we certainly hope so.
No, they're going to do it in a special session. What I don't like, and I've said it on that, I've been very blunt with you. You know, we started a hospital in New Orleans that should have never been built, at least built like it was. We were never going to be able to fund that properly. All those things weigh into taking money from stuff like this. And nobody thinks about it when we're building this stuff. And that's what's frustrating to me. And so I sit here and go, you know, David, I know you know this. I have a budget, and I don't know where to cut anymore to keep paying taxes. I really don't at this point. And I think a lot of people, you live in oil and gas, heart of oil and gas, a lot of people are concerned about how they're going to pay their budget. So when it gets down to it, what do we do? Ultimately, what do we do? Because we can't keep drying up the private sector either. So I mean, ultimately, what do we do to make this fixable? I mean, I don't know.
Moon, as we sat and as we've been talking to patients and the folks that get care at UHC. You know, you talk about the oil and gas. There are a lot of folks that get their care at UHC in our clinics and our hospital there. They used to be employed and they used to have insurance.
Sure.
And that is their only access to care. And so, you know, when we talk about this and for everyone to understand the dire impact that this could have, I mean, we're talking no access to care for these folks. Emergency departments flooded across Acadiana because of the lack of access. And with the clinics not being there, you really have a primary care situation where we potentially are going to have a public health crisis in Acadiana. And so it is important that they do the right thing. And until we can have structural changes to our budget, I don't know what other decision we have other than raise additional revenue.
Yeah. I'll tell you what you do. Do me a favor. They're going to raise some taxes. I've already been told this by Republicans. When it gets passed and all this is settled, I want you to call me back. I want you to call me back and jump my butt. I want you to call me back and say, you know, Boo, you were right, but I don't like what we had to go through, which, by the way, I do understand that, Mr. David.
Callecod. I hope you're right.
I'm going to be right. Listen, I got history.
I don't want to have to do what may have to happen on June 30. Okay. I don't want to have to do it.
President of Lafayette General, Mr. David Callecod. Hey, David, you're welcome anytime. You know that.
Thanks for taking my call, Moon.
Okay, God bless. Wish you best of luck. They will get it passed, though. They will fund this thing like they're supposed to. Mark my word. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Andrew Moe, who's with Director of Advocacy for AARP. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm great, Moon. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yes, sir. House Bill 281, I know it's what you wanted to talk about. Talk a little bit about what the bill does first.
Well, the bill is very simple. What the bill does is it provides residents and families the choice to install a monitoring device in their room if they're a nursing home resident. So what it does is it allows that nursing home resident or the family member to be connected and to be able to be a part of the care team and to also make sure that their loved one is receiving proper care inside a nursing home. And it's a common sense bill. It passed out of the House with 65 co-authors, passed 95-0, and now it's going through the Senate process. And we still know it's going to be a bit of a hard fight, so we're still spreading the awareness about it, educating senators about it, and really trying to educate the public about why this bill is so important and why this needs to become law.
Now, this basically what you're telling me is a monitor in the room or is a monitor wherever they go around the nursing home?
It'd be in the room. It'd be in their private room.
So in other words, what you'll be able to do is pull it up on my phone and check on my mom or grandmother or whatever, and you could be at work. You can kind of check it out when somebody goes in and waits on them. You can hear what they say. You can watch what they do. Is that basically what it does?
Absolutely. Just like you do with your child at a daycare, just like you do with your pets who are staying in a kennel overnight. It's the same concept. And what it does is it really gives assurance to those family members that their loved one is receiving proper and appropriate care. So it really makes sense.
Well, what is the beef with it? Is the nursing homes, anybody going against it? And if it is, what is the beef with it?
Well, there has been some pushback from nursing homes that are wanting to really to water down the bill on the Senate side. So what we're asking senators to do is to vote for the bill without any amendments that could weaken it, either the intent or the impact of the bill, and compromise just how impactful it can be. So, we're asking for senators to vote for the bill as it came out of the House, again with 65 co-authors, and do what's right for their loved ones.
Yeah, Andrew Moore, Director of Advocacy for the AARP. David, when you say watered down, what are they trying to do to water this down? This looks like it's real simple is what I'm saying.
Yeah, one of the amendments that they wanted to propose would have prevented live streaming. And we think live streaming is critical because if your loved one is in a nursing home and is maybe choking or having some sort of issue and there's nobody else in the room, this allows the family member to make a phone call possibly to alert staff that there's an issue going on. So the live streaming capability is something that was the opposition tried to remove that, and so we want to make sure that stays in the bill. We think that's critical to the importance of the bill and critical to saving lives, which this bill can also do.
Yeah, but I understand on the other side that everything will be so scrutinized no matter what happens now, if you do have that. So I guess that's the beef with the nursing homes. They're saying, look, we're trying to do everything we can. Now you got to worry about a big brother looking down on you. And I guess I'm asking you. I guess that's where they're coming from.
Let me stop it. It's
just like in your job that you do every day. Me and Brandon, we work here. Nobody's really watching us. I mean, they can hear us, but they're not really watching what we say or do or what we do off the air. It would say, okay, we're installing cameras. It would make you think, man, I can't joke about anything. Oh, and that's why I'm understanding a little bit of that. A little bit of that.
And what this does is it really allows family members to be a part of that care team and just have that assurance.
Sure,
and like I said, you do it in daycare, you do it with your children, and you do it with your pets. So why not seniors as well?
I just wonder if this could lead to every business having to have cameras all the time showing what everybody's doing all the time. And so I understand that side of it. I understand what you're saying. This is just strictly for y'all to make sure that somebody with a loved one in a nursing home can kind of monitor them while they're in the room to see what's going on, from medicine to talking to them to visiting with them to procedures. I mean, you're kind of right there with them.
Right. It just gives that extra level of assurance to the family member.
Yeah. I just always wondered, and I'm talking about you and me, if somebody said, okay, we're going to put a camera at your business and we're going to find out everything that Andrew and Moon does. Not that you do anything wrong. Hey, not that you or me are doing anything wrong. It's just that I wonder if up the road everybody's going to say, well, if you do it there, we can do it here. If you do it here, we need to do it over there. That was why I was asking that.
We definitely don't think that there's any inappropriate care occurring in a nursing home. That's it's not about that at all. It's about just providing that reassurance to a loved one and allowing them to stay connected. It's about just, giving that peace of mind to the family.
Oh, and I agree. I think that that's probably why it passed so easily. Why? By the way, if it gets beat, it'll get beat in the Senate committee. What committee does it go to now? What committee is it headed to in the Senate?
It's actually gotten out of Senate committee. It goes to the full Senate floor now for a vote. It got out of Senate committee, which is where there were a few attempts to weaken the bill, but now it goes to the full Senate floor, and that'll be its final hurdle.
I would think the Senate would pass it. I'm gonna be shocked if they don't.
We hope so.
By the way,
we're not taking anything for granted.
One other question. If, let's say it passes, now, are the nursing homes going to be required to set something up, or will this be something a family member has to pay and set it up?
It's all on the family member.
Okay. And by the way, I think that's right. It shouldn't be the nursing home sets it up,
No. It's the cost, the operation cost, the installation cost is all on the family and the family members.
Would they have to? Could they do it with a cell phone, or is this something they're going to have to actually pay some money to get cameras and stuff set up in there?
Well, you've seen probably those small little cameras that you can install. I mean, sometimes they're $20, $30, $40, and then of course on the other end you'd be able to view it from your cell phone or from an iPad or laptop and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we had one in here and they tried to film it and I blew it up, so they don't put them in here anymore. So I know all about them. Rob had a little computer on Facebook and it blew his computer up, so we couldn't do it in here anymore. Well, interesting to see, when is the bill due up?
It'll be any day now. It could be as soon as today or tomorrow. More than likely, it will be before next week. So we're hoping that we use this opportunity to educate lawmakers and educate the public about why this is important, and to really use this opportunity to explain why it's important for family members and caregivers to be connected to their loved ones in a nursing home.
All righty. Well, we'll follow the bill and check out what happens. Appreciate the call, Andrew. Good luck to you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, Andrew Moon, of course, AARP Advocacy Director. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline if you'd like to be part of the program. Your opportunity to be a voice. All right, let's jump gears. State Treasurer John Schroeder joins us. John, how you doing?
Oh, Moon, my blood pressure's up a little bit.
Well, listen to my program, and normally I bring it down since I'm so nonpartisan, non-political. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Well, knowing you the way I know you, I'm fixing to get your blood pressure up, too.
All right, first thing first, though. Did the bond commission the other day, and you guys did a great job. You and I know Jeff Landry and Blake Miguez was trying to fight for the citizens dealing with banks that have now come out basically against the Second Amendment. You guys stood up for the people. Yet I know Jim Beam and some of the people in the press, they just shot y'all down like it wasn't important.
Well, thank God everybody doesn't listen to the press. These guys just, I don't know, man. They just, I about had it with the press. I'm tired of them just taking one side. You know, what I want to do is make sure that banks that are doing business with Louisiana aren't infringing on our rights. I don't think that's crazy, wacko, some right-leaning politician. As a military veteran, as a former law enforcement officer, I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's one of the basic rights we have, to bear arms, and I don't like being infringed upon that. And, Boone, this wasn't the end of the world. Those companies would have the opportunity to not have the policy or to have the policy. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, the governor and administration is acting like it was some catastrophe. There's plenty of banks out there, and if they want to do business with Louisiana, then abide by what the majority of Louisiana citizens believe, period.
But it's worse
than that difficult.
It's worse than that. I read Jim Beam's piece, and he's become a total sycophant deputy press secretary for the administration. And he made it sound like you guys were getting in Edwards' way for election instead of him being disappointed that we're doing business with banks who are trying to make public comments about and public policy based on the Second Amendment. He didn't go after them. Yeah, he went after y'all.
Moon, let me be perfectly clear to the listeners, and I know the governor's people are listening because they always tell me they do. I want to be absolutely crystal clear. I spend zero seconds during my day talking about the governor of Louisiana. That is not my job.
No, it's mine.
That's your job and other people's jobs. It's not mine. I do not sit in my office and conspire to do things against this governor. Will not. That's not what I do.
I don't think anybody does. I really don't. They are paranoid because they want him to win re-election. But I'm telling you, Beam and the rest of them took the sides of the banks. And this is what he basically said. I'm going to sum it up. The banks have a right to set policy based on what they think's best. And you guys don't have a right to set policy based on what you think is right. And that don't make any sense.
Well, I can promise you one thing. we're going to at least have a discussion about it. I don't know legally if I can lawfully say I'm not doing business with them, but Moon, I'm going to look into it. And that's the conversation I had with the Attorney General. We have a ways to go. This is just the beginning of this process. But it is disturbing to me how the governor's people are defending this. I'm beside myself on that. But I got to tell you, I'm pure in why I want to do this. I could care less, and I don't know. Jim Beam's never talked to me. He walks by me and says hello, but he never asked me a question. He never asked me about my opinions on anything. So he's very quick to tell you what I'm thinking. But
well, let me give you a quick example, John. Let me give you a quick example. I'm going to quote him. Whatever the companies do is their business, and taking a stand on any issue is within their rights as long as it isn't illegal, which this doesn't appear to be. Now, by the way, y'all don't have any rights. He didn't defend your rights. He didn't defend your rights to defend the people in Louisiana. He defended the businesses' rights to do what they want to do. But for Schroeder and Landry and Miguez, who are real conservative fighters, y'all don't have that right. All y'all want to do is beat up the governor. And that's what I'm saying. It's gotten ridiculous in the state. The Washington press has moved here. And they just like the Washington press, and they got their side with Bell Edwards like they had with Obama. Boom, they're taking sides.
Yeah, look, I'm on the side of the people of the state. I'm not going to play politics with it, despite what the governor says. And Moon, I think you know me well enough, and a lot of people know me well enough. I'm not real good posturing. Posturing means you don't take a position. I'm clearly taking a position. Mm-hmm. I'm clearly on the side of the citizens of Louisiana on this issue, period. If it causes us a little more work, a little more grief, so be it.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, all y'all were saying was that these companies, banking businesses that we got hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts with, if they want to do this, fine. Go do business somewhere else. There's another 5 or 10 companies out there we can do business with. That's it. That's simple.
I don't want to get into national politics. I have all I can say grace over on state politics and the things that I have to do to run my department. But these big banks don't like the South. They never have. I'll buy anybody lunch tonight or dinner tonight if they can find a Bank of America bank in Louisiana or Citigroup. I'll buy you dinner tonight. Wherever you want, I'll drive there. You just call and tell me where I need to go. But go find one of their institutions with brick and mortar in this state.
No.
You're not going to.
No, they just want to sell bonds, take your money. They want to take your money and go. That's it, period.
Well, they don't think we're capable or smart enough to make our own decisions, Moon. It's a little bit offensive to me. But nonetheless, with all that said, they will have the opportunity to come in front of the Bond Commission and defend their policy. And that's.
By the way, that's what I was going to ask you. Where are we with this? Where are we with this? Where's this left at?
Well,
right
the way the resolution passed was that they will have to appear in front of the entities or the banks that want to do business with the state, particularly on this Darby bond issuance, would have to come in front of the bond committee for questioning. And at that time, we can question them about their gun policies.
Yeah, no doubt about it. John Schroeder, our state treasurer.
There's typically a process to go through for these big banks who typically do our bond work. And it's a committee made up of 5 members of the Bond Commission, which I sit on. But typically what has happened is that they send their designees or their staff. So what the administration was able to put in the resolution, which I don't totally disagree with, that now that will be done in front of the whole commission.
But I had gotten word that these banks didn't really want to talk about this, but they would talk about it privately. Is that true? They didn't want to talk about something that's public, but they wanted to talk about this privately. But this is public. They made it public. You wouldn't know about it if they didn't make it public.
I mean, yeah, when you enter into this world, then it becomes public. Unfortunately, just about everything I do is public. So if you're going to have a public position on public policy, then you need to come publicly discuss it.
That's what I'm thinking. Once again, Beam and the rest of the press Man, y'all want to be the bad guys. They took up for the banks because they taken up for Edwards. If Edwards was, that's another thing. If Edwards was so Second Amendment, and that's what being Second Amendment, all about the Second Amendment. It's funny. All the bad bills working its way through the House and Senate, he's not trying to knock them down, and all the good bills, he's not exactly standing up for them. Now, I'm not saying he can say Second Amendment or right all he wants to, but there's bills to stand for and against, yet his name's not by any of them.
No, and look, I'm getting really tired. I try to give him their space and let them do and say as they want, but every time I say something, I'm either posturing or I'm being political, but they can go off and say what they want to whom they want, wherever they want, and I'm sort of getting tired of it.
Yeah.
I try to make my arguments based on what I believe to be sound principle and sound policy. And Moon, not to change subjects on you, but I'm really irritated that every time we have some bill comes up that would structurally fix government, the administration seems to be opposed to it. Short of structure that changes our tax code, that raises money, I can't think off the top of my head one infrastructure type bill that they have supported this session. And the pension bill that Senator Peacock had that's been shelved is probably one of the best pieces of legislation we've had to reform retirement in years.
Yep.
And was shelved because the unions didn't support it. And I think the governor needs to remember he represents all the people of Louisiana, and it's our job as executives to make sound decisions that is good for government in the future, not just today in our politics.
Yeah, one of the things, and John, you don't get to hear me much, but you maybe hear about it. One of the things that the reason me challenging the press is because of just what you said. They have taken sides so bad. Beam is the worst. Tyler Bridges, I can sit here and name them all. They've taken sides so bad for Edwards. They want him reelected. They're the ones doing the politics while they're accusing y'all of doing the politics. And I'm telling you, I've watched a lot of Republicans that are trying to do what's right, but in their eyes, y'all can do nothing right. Unless you're going to raise taxes. It's why you see Nancy Pelosi, Julie Stokes, Rob Chaudhry, Barry Ives. You see them get the publicity in these articles. There's good Republicans, great Republicans, but y'all are bad guys. And you were called a bad guy when you were in the House because you did what was right.
And look, I ran for state treasurer to continue doing that. I don't. As I told people, I want to be in this seat. I don't need to be, and it's going to take some difficult decisions. And I'm prepared to tell you, your listeners, and the rest of Louisiana some of the problems that we're having. And we don't have enough people in that building, Moon, that will just do what's the best thing to do, period, because of politics. I get it's hard, and I tell people this all the time. It's hard. It's difficult. I get it. But, I mean, if we're going to fix this state and move the state in the right direction, we need to start making better decisions.
John Schroeder, of course, our state treasurer. Johnny, we talked about some of the stuff with the guns. And, by the way, y'all were right. Y'all were 100% right. You, Miguez, and Landry, there may have been some other people that were talking, but I know you three guys were carrying the banner. Let me jump gears with you a little bit because you can't address it being a state treasurer. Back in special session, they wanted $1 billion. We now find out it's only $495 million short. Back in the special session, we knew the Trump tax cut, although it was helping us on the federal side, people that itemized, like me, probably like you and Brandon, 45% of the state itemized. Don't look at that 80-20, all that's a bunch of bunk. But the bottom line is on this is that the Trump tax cut gave the state $300 million more dollars, and looks like some more money came in. So it's about $495 million. But it had Lance Harris and Cameron Henry and Blake and some of the leaders, had they given in to Governor Edwards and Governor Dordon, they would have got $1 billion. They'd have got $500 million more than they needed. And that's what they shot for. People ought to be upset that they tried to go hit a grand slam like that. Why in the world can the governor and Dordon them look at people when they were trying to get $1 billion or $1.3 billion, and they never needed nowhere near that kind of money?
Moon, it's really, really frustrating. Look, started out at $1.3 billion, and now we're down to just under $500 million.
Correct.
my experience spending 10 years working on the budget, they always seem to work through these issues. Of course, we seem to have them every year. You know, I tell people this. You have to start first with the first premise that the people of Louisiana, at least I believe, don't want us to raise our taxes, which means you have to live within your means. So we've gone from $1.3 billion down to, I think it's $498 million is the number I looked at last. So, you know, if the legislature wants to come in and raise, I think the only way they're going to get that is through the sales tax. I don't think anything else will pass. I don't think anything else has a shot to pass.
Well, half a cent would do it, I believe. A half a cent would get you pretty close.
And I don't think they'll do a half a cent. I think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to give them $498 million. I think they're going to give them somewhere around $250 to $300 and call it a day.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, but think about this. The governor and Darden and everybody in the media, $1 billion to $1.3 billion, we just can't do it. We can't do it without it. And we already found out it's almost a third of that. Almost a third of that, John. Well,
that's why nobody trusts government, Moon. I said this early on a program that we're constantly screaming wolf in this process. Constantly.
Yep.
And now we find out that if we would have raised taxes, it would have been $800 million more than what they needed.
That's right.
Now,
and let me tell you what I think this is. They told us it was a $2 billion deficit. That was a lie when he came in. They jacked that thing way up, and then they want to tell people we got a surplus. And the press is going to be the ones run with this. Hey, only a few seconds left. Your quick answer.
Well, you're absolutely right. And look, I want to, at least the commercials gave me a chance to get my blood pressure lowered. But look, all the press isn't bad. But and I don't mean to throw everybody under the same bus, but you named a few of them. The press needs to start reporting both sides of this thing because it's really a huge injustice to the citizens of Louisiana.
Especially the ones in Baton Rouge and the Advocate. Got to run, John. Thank you so much. We'll do it again.
Anytime, man.